Welcome to the Hard Tech Podcast.
And everybody, welcome back to the Hard Tech Podcast. I'm your host, DeAndre Harakas, with my co-host, Grant Chapman.
How's it going, everybody?
And today we have a super exciting guest. I'm super excited about it. He's in the world of sports tech, Alex Krause from Trace. How are you?
Hey, doing well today.
Awesome.
Yeah, happy to meet.
Yeah, so Alex, you've got a really unique background. I mean, you live in California, if that's right, and you've worked at some of like the largest companies in the world on the products that we use every single day. And then you've made the transition over to something that not everyone uses every day, but it's super cool in the world of sports tech. So I'd love to get an update and a background, just who you are.
Yeah. So you mentioned it. I actually I did the whole PhD thing at Caltech, and then I worked at Apple for 3 years on the iPhone. So we were working on the Face ID hardware, the thing that actually sends out 30,000 laser spots, to make a 3D map and do Face ID unlock. Ramped that hundreds of millions of units for a few years. I did a brief stint making at Elon's Boring Company.
Excellent.
So doing tunneling equipment, totally different.
Yeah, bigger scale and different hardware, right? Like instead of going from micron size, worrying about tolerances, things like that. Now you're at the macro scale.
Yeah, exactly. Doing 300-ton crane lifts, and making sure those are handled safely. Totally different. But we were only building one a year at the time.
Yeah. Quantity and physical size of unit are totally different on those two platforms.
Yeah. And that was great. Still love that company. And then now, at Trace for almost 3 years now. It's been pretty nice. We're a small startup doing these soccer AI cameras. So it's a soccer camera. You chuck it up on a tripod. 2 cameras record 180-degree field of view in high resolution. And then an AI backend basically processes all that footage, recognizes all the players so that you get not just highlights or just like the game footage. Every player gets their own highlight reel.
That's so neat. So you can basically, like, a coach can have it for a team, not just like one dad for their kid. This is like coach can do it for the team. And after it's all been post-processed, each team member can see their plays, each member can see their team highlights and kind of like the mix and match thereof.
Yeah, exactly. And we actually find, because we record the whole match, and we will send you the video that's basically following the action, we can post-process and send you a version of the game that's just you, as if you had hired your own personal videographer where you're the center of the action,
right?
All game, or for all the highlights.
That's so crazy that you guys can get that automation to that scale that you don't have a human in the loop to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. So everyone gets basically their own cam version.
Yeah, and all with 2 cameras of hardware.
Yeah, exactly.
It's super cool. What drew you to Trace? So how did you end up at Trace 3 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I love the chance. Obviously, I'd gone from Apple, where you're on these huge teams, to at Elon, you had a lot more ownership, and I really liked that. So, like at Trace, I'm the director of hardware here, and I like that I kind of make most of the hardware decisions. Obviously, in partnership with the product team, the CEO. Like it's always still a group effort, to build anything good. But I like owning a lot of that stack and really being involved in the whole stack of the hardware piece.
No, that's awesome. I think that's why a lot of people work at Glassboard or places like Glassboard, because we get to do that on more than one project at once, right? Our engineers that are leading hardware development for company A and B at the same time, and they're kind of riding that roller coaster all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Bringing up new devices, new hardware design.
Yeah, always in the thick of it, as they say. There's no rest for the wicked.
Yeah.
And Alex, when it comes to like the actual tech stack that you're manning, so can you kind of walk us through it with what you can, like the actual tech stack of these cameras?
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, I think back to my time. I started in the sports tech world back in 2020. And around that time, you get started. There's a lot of I was in the team management side as a software as a service platform. I played football in college, and Huddle, Spideo, Trace.
Yes.
This is the time like people are raising $50 million, $60 million rounds, all in the world of cameras, because I think Huddle started it out, and that was sort of a moat that you could create to make sure that a school system just couldn't download another software for their teams. Now you have an actual a physical camera, which sort of was interesting to the school market. So just kind of curious on the tech stack, and I got to see from afar how that was changing, but never actually have conversations with people who were actually building those cameras.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, so huddles, yeah, one of our competitors, VO is another one you may have heard of,
Yes.
in the in the soccer space. And one thing that's like most different about Trace, at the hardware organizational level, is we actually don't sell the cameras. So,
Your hardware as a
VO,
service.
Huddle, the competitors, we're actually hardware as a service. We're leasing the camera to you. Uh, One thing, like as someone who runs the hardware team, I love about that is I actually own all of the hardware. So if I need to push a software update, we just push a software update. It's my hardware.
Right.
I'm not waiting for the user input. And in a lot of ways, it's a more honest model because yes, you can buy a Huddle camera or buy a competitor's camera, but if you're not paying for the service, you're not actually purchasing the annual license.
Yeah.
You actually It's a paperweight. You can't actually do anything with it. You don't actually own something of value because it doesn't work by itself. Uh, and so, yeah, we like this model that we lease it. It also means, I don't think of it as how can I sell more cameras, right? We're trying to enroll customers,
Yeah.
keep them active, and then it's more like, Hertz, Renaissance. I'm maintaining a fleet of hardware. I need to keep it refurbished. I need to, check health metrics while it's deployed in the field, things like that.
And so when was that hardware as a service business model decided on? Was that decided on from the beginning? Was that always the competitive difference between
Basically,
you
from
guys
the
and Video?
beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. Even before I joined it, so I can't take credit for it, even though I really like it. I think it's wise, because they decided we're not really selling you something because it doesn't even work without the service on top of it, and so it makes sense to just loop it in, kind of into this recurring revenue model. Uh, it's also nice because when customers churn, we get the hardware back.
Yeah. It's not a lost piece of hardware
Rather
you
than
sold at a loss.
Exactly. We get the hardware back, and sometimes you're chasing customer, it's hard, but most of the time we get that hardware back, and we have a rigorous QA testing procedure to make sure it's good to go back out in the field, but we send it, out again.
No, that's awesome. Again, the
Yeah.
place where I wish someone would have used hardware as a service. I don't have one. It was just a great case study. Have you ever heard of the Spotify car thing? Because
Oh, yeah,
Spotify
yeah.
built that bespoke piece of hardware that was Spotify in your car. You just plug into your aux cord or Bluetooth, no phone needed, and then they charged you for it, and they dropped support like within a year or some crazy short timeline. And they have all these angry customers that bought this hardware at an expensive price point, and the company
Yeah,
bricked
paid
it.
for it up front.
It's like
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
crazy case study in like customer rights, consumer rights of like how is
hmm
this fair or legal or whatnot.
Yeah, because you don't really own it
Yeah,
if it can be bricked,
yeah,
essentially,
they
if it's
can just
really reliant on
brick
the
it.
service.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whereas you guys don't even
Uh,
have that fallacy up front that I own this camera. Like, no, I am paying Trace for this service, and I love the service, and I'm a customer. Or the service wasn't for me,
mm.
and I shipped the hardware back, and it was never mine to own.
Exactly. Yeah. And to talk about the actual hardware stack,
Yeah,
how we built it and how we thought of it as well. Uh, the main brains, we kept it very simple, which is like how we built it is very modular and easy to set up,
hmm
rather than a lot of custom dev boards and things like that. So the main brains is actually a Raspberry Pi, just a off the shelf Raspberry Pi 4 kind of runs the system. We have our programming application on that, right? The Pi 4, obviously, it's an incredible platform.
they're insane.
It's so cheap. It has Wi-Fi certifications. It's pretty stable. All of these things, just an incredible platform. So we just built it off the Pi 4, and then the camera modules themselves are also essentially not actually GoPro, but essentially just separate camera modules.
hmm
And you tell them to start recording, they record, and then after we record the footage, we download that. The Pi downloads it, and we upload it to S3. And then all of the processing
The actual
is
crunching.
basically in the cloud.
And so
Yeah,
that's interesting. So your cameras have their own storage. Like this isn't like the Pi is buffering the footage and logging it to an internal memory. Like those camera
right,
modules are doing
right.
that as a more or less like off the shelf product. You guys are just
Yeah,
interfacing with that camera's digital interface to go grab that data and use the Pi as the shuttling agent to get that data up to your
that's
cloud
right.
servers. Oh, that's so
Yeah. Yeah,
fascinating.
exactly. And so it lets us it let us get started. Before I think next year we're going to be in the tens of
I
thousand,
was just going to ask you
unit
if you could share
delivery.
volumes. Yeah, because
But
this is a
yeah.
fascinating point
So
of like
that
where
ballpark.
is that cliff of like pies get hard to source at that volume and not like when are those choices going to
Yes,
happen?
yes. Exactly. So before we were at that volume, this modular architecture was great
Hmm.
because it meant it was pretty easy when we run out of one camera sensor was starting to get low. I just swapped in a whole new modular unit because they're just communicating over a standard
Is
interface.
it USB?
I didn't have to redo a ton of firmware. It's just over USB.
Yeah. So yeah, you're
Yeah.
literally just writing a Linux USB driver to go dial in on that camera, say, hey, I'd like the footage now, or hey, I'd like you to start recording now, and that's
Yes.
all you're doing.
Yes.
That is
Exactly.
so neat.
And actually, our partner who sells us the camera modules, they actually wrote the basically interface. Like, here's the API
Yeah,
call,
here's your
over
API.
USB to start recording, to get files, to whatever, right?
That's so great.
And so it means on our side, especially as we're hardware as a service, I'm maintaining this fleet. Backwards compatibility is critical.
Mm.
So that if I get a return from a customer 2 years ago, I can just upgrade and put in the latest camera modules. So our entire fleet, even over a lot of hardware revs, is actually fully intercompatible.
Yeah, so you have like a bunch of different products that can all differently combinationally get into a trench coat together and be a trace unit. That way
Yes.
your supply chain,
Yes.
other than the Pi, is incredibly robust. And when did you guys
Yes.
launch the hardware the first time? Because I know Pi's right after the pandemic were a
Great
very interesting
question.
commodity
Yeah,
to
it
get.
was. Yeah. It was in. It would have been late 2021. Yeah. It was first launching. I
Yeah.
think that's right.
So right when those were
Uh,
coming back online.
and and we went through some tough times with the Pi. Right. We
Hmm.
made the decision on the Pi. It was like it's awesome, super available. And in COVID, we were paying wild prices,
Oh yeah.
3x the nominal price of a Pi, just to make sure we had them.
Were you guys buying the
Uh,
Amazon kits that
yeah.
had like the case and the memory card and everything included with it? 'Cause we had to do that for a
The
few
whole thing, anything
clients.
we could get
Yeah.
our hands on. Yeah, anything we get our hands on, buying it on Amazon, finding random sellers. We had a good distributor partner who sourced some, but yeah. The prices just, I think at their peak went up to around 3x
Hmm.
the normal price of a Pi if you really needed them
Yeah.
at bulk.
But
Yeah.
the beauty of your model is you didn't have to make margin on that piece of hardware that day. As long as that Pi lived long
Yes.
enough as a hardware service play, it paid itself off and you grew the customer base and grew your
Yes.
fleet, and that's the thing you could keep investing in.
Hmm.
And the Pis are the robust part,
Yeah.
whereas the
Exactly.
cameras are like the thing you're probably going to want to upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the Pis, honestly, almost never break.
Yeah.
Like if things break in the camera, because what's amazing is, we do have some cameras that break and get damaged. We have higher failure rates than I personally would like. I'm always trying to get it better. But one of the reasons they break is it's on a 15-foot tripod. You'll see it in video. It gets hit by a soccer ball. Someone runs into it.
Yeah.
It just windy and it falls over
Topples
sometimes.
over.
It's
And
not
15 feet
secured.
drop is really hard to survive for anything.
Exactly. The iPhone, a lot of iPhones wouldn't survive that, especially repeatedly. Like I can see in the returns evidence that like, oh, this one survived, but it hit the ground.
Yeah.
You can see some internal components are busted or yeah.
Yeah,
So
some screw
there's a
bosses
lot
are
of falls
cracked.
that exactly.
Oh, that's so much fun. But the great part is if
Um,
the Pi survives, you have that hardware, right? You have all these
exactly.
disparate parts that you might have a 40% broken unit. That means you still have 60% of the cogs of the next unit.
And Alex,
Yes.
in,
Yes.
in addition to that, whenever we were first chatting, like in our pre-podcast conversation, you were talking a little bit about the NVIDIA chips and like the trade-offs you had to make between keeping the Pi or the NVIDIA chips.
Mhm.
But what does it look like for you as like balancing the bomb, like plus 10,000 units, like going into next
Yeah.
year? How are you sort of thinking about that?
Yeah, and it's the classic decision. I think hitting a lot of hardware makers, AI people focused on this is like, should I try to move more compute to the edge?
It's so
Essentially,
hard to pick that
is like
answer.
the key question. Should I move to the edge? And this was a few years ago. We were working on it and designing. Actually, I have a functional unit of like a version with an NVIDIA inside that would have done a lot of AI compute at the edge. Uh, it's not clear if we could have done all of our AI compute. Like you still need something in cloud, but a pretty powerful, awesome edge unit. And we looked into it, and one of the problems was, especially those NVIDIA units at the time, it would have doubled at least our BOM so it would have been, let's say, $1,000 camera
Well,
for our costs. Yeah.
and to dig into that, it's one of those things that you're doubling the BOM. And the question in a product world is, what does that do for the user? There's certain cases where having real-time edge compute is worth money. It helps the use case.
Yes.
Whereas for you guys, whether I get it right after the game or on the drive home, it's not as important. And tertiary to that, it is also the how often is that hardware computing? If you have a case where your edge computers use 70 or 80% of the time, it probably makes sense to edge compute it. But if these get used every weekend and 5 days a week they're not computing, it's way easier to rent that time on a server somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And we kind of went through this exact thing of like, when does it make sense to basically, you're paying up front, basically all your CapEx. You're basically purchasing a huge amount of compute and just putting it on the edge. And when does it make sense? If you need really low latency, it makes sense, right? So in this case, if we needed to recognize the goal, wanted to recognize the goal
for scorekeeping
right now, essentially, for scorekeeping, for things like that, right? If you to do those features where you want live, essentially, then you need it on the edge, and it's just that simple.
And were you guys thinking about broadcast as well?
Yeah, exactly. So then you say, okay, well, I want to live stream the game, and actually we do provide live stream now. We rolled it out recently with our current hardware, which was really cool. That basically in software with firmware, we figured it out. That 100% of our cameras for free just overnight got live streaming capability.
Very cool.
That is so crazy.
And the trade-off is the live stream is simple in that it's just live streaming the raw feed from the cameras. So we're not, because we don't have the built-in AI to follow the action. But humans are pretty good at that. Like if you're watching the live stream, you don't mind that much the cameras, and there are benefits. Like I'd love if we could zoom in,
on the
use
ball.
the bandwidth better.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like but we realized that we didn't need to basically massively increase the BOM cost to deliver the core features for the customer, which is highlights, game analysis, the match video, and actually that we had a path to, for $0 of hardware cost, deliver a live stream. Yes, it's not, following the action as well as you'd like, but it is live stream. People use it. People use it every day.
Well, and the question that begs me is, can you guys pull another rabbit out of the proverbial hat and just whatever you were going to compute on the edge, go put it on a server, and it might have a 2-minute delay or 30-second delay. That's another software change that the existing hardware, if it can stream to the cloud, the AI can get it in the cloud and then go rip it apart and track the action and do the highlights. And you could, legitimately with enough compute horsepower and enough time to make the code, you might be able to make an individualized stream per player.
Yes, exactly. And I try to think about it. I made a presentation once when we were making this decision about, what should we put on the edge? Should we go this way for like a high-end edge computer or just keep kind of how we're doing, which we decided. And like the first title slide was like, when should you do hardware? And the answer is like, don't. Even though I love hardware, the answer is don't do hardware. As a first step, if you can find a way not to, don't use the hardware. Don't rely on a hardware solution because you're baking in all of this cost, all of these assumptions, etc. If you want to improve something, you don't roll a firmware update. You build a new one, and it like slowly, exactly, and so obviously, I love hardware. I've been building it for years and years in a lot of places. But you should be really intentional about do you absolutely need a hardware solution? Is that really the best option here? And the other thing about putting compute at the edge versus in the cloud, if the compute's at the edge at the time I record the video, let's say my AI models, had an issue. It picked the wrong soccer ball. It whatever. Well, I've already processed it. I've basically lost the original video. I can't reprocess it.
Right.
Or if I want to release a new model, I have to wait until the customer turns on their camera, uploads it. Hopefully they turn on their camera and update before their next soccer game. Whereas like if I need a hot fix in the cloud, I just push it. And I can even like retroactively say do the last 12 out. Yeah, exactly. The
Yeah.
last 2 days of games just reprocess. You have all this flexibility.
I
Uh, yeah.
I thought that was a super good point there on if you don't have to do hardware, like don't do it. And I love that because this is the Hard Tech podcast. This is literally what we talk about.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great point. And with your background, the companies you've been at, what is that criteria for you? Like with the next couple slides in the deck, like did you kind of explain to your team, like you don't do hardware unless you ultimately have to. And this is basically the decision-making criteria as to how we decide if hardware is necessary.
Yes, exactly. It's in a nutshell, like when you need hardware is because you run out of all the other options,
Yeah, it's the
essentially.
necessary evil.
It's the necessary evil. And the trade-off is obviously like the biggest companies in the world build hardware and do hardware and use it. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is that it enables you to do things you can't do otherwise. But it's also very sticky, which is like we could have Trace talked about and like could have gone down the avenue of like, oh, trying to just release an app for your iPhone,
Yep.
right? That records it. Uh, but of course, that's always really hard. You have to rely on the customer to give up their iPhone, place it correctly. You don't own any of the stack, all those things. Uh, so the real point is consider all your other options first, and then do it when you have to. Yeah.
Yeah, and we always take a look at that with our, we're looking at any new product for clients. It's like, all right, what off the shelf can I go steal and put into your product before having to develop from the custom ground up? And we go find it's called an IoT gateway, and we can just plug in an off the shelf sensor and call it their product. We're like, here's a 3D printed box. Go buy these 3 things and put them together and launch with this. And only when your volumes cross the point that buying these gets expensive and you can ROI my engineering time to build that into a custom solution, should you pay me to do that. But I'm here to help you crawl, walk, run. Right? And I think this is the thing
That's
about
right.
hardware is
That's
like
right.
we are that necessary evil, just like talking to me in a meeting. You have to get to the hard tech team, but here we are. But no, it's that tough decision of how much and when. And it takes really good, I'm going to call it diligence, to keep the nice feature at bat. To get you to crawl, walk, run, and not get the the leadership that's like, oh no, we want everything today. I'm like, can you afford everything today? Does your 100 clients or 500 clients today need everything?
And it's not even, it's like, oh, can you afford everything today? You might not have had the money or the team or all the investment needed to do a custom design in 10,000 units. The other thing is to kind of realize how little you know. Like before you enter a new space or a new market, a new product, you actually don't know that well exactly what all the key features are going to be, how it's going to work, how you want to do it. And so there's so much value. If you can cobble together, buy an ESP32, 3D print your own box, and, click in a few, USB, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi connector, right? Like do that version of your product. You can definitely, sell the first hundreds, the first, 1,000 of your units, and you're going to learn so much from that. But then when you go to do the real design, all the money aside, just you learn so much. Your product is going to be so much better. And you will have gotten to market sooner, like almost certainly, with the cobbled together thing that isn't as polished as you would have wanted.
And you got the validation and everything like that. Absolutely.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. It's just this thing that the hardware guys need to steal from the software team. All the app developers and software startups, you know what their first version is? Because it's not a website or an app. It's like a MS Paint, PowerPoint, or maybe a Figma version of their website.
Yeah,
They go show their first 5 friends or 10 friends. And then the very first version of the app they coded together. And today you just go vibe code it. But back in the day, you'd go build on a platform and put your logo on it and fake it. And in the background, even if you didn't have the right API calls or stuff, you would literally have humans go do the thing. Like someone would upload the video and you go fake edit it and like, hey, did you like this service? And then you have to figure out how to automate that thing that you used to do it with human scale. And I think doing that with hardware is such a great parallel to say, like, what can you fake until you make?
Yeah. And the real thing about doing it custom, unless I don't know, weight or your exact minimum size, is a requirement for your product. You can almost always get a bunch of cobbled together off the shelf stuff. If it's going to be a little bit bulky or a little bit heavy, and then it's really just a question of cost. So like as Trace scales, we're getting up into those 10K units, things like that, is where I think it does start making sense. You really do. It's worth the custom design, and the custom design for all these things. but even then, it's only, just because I think it'll be cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Well, and it's
it'll be worth it. It'll save at that scale. Yeah.
the interesting part is, what do you customize first? Because it might not be that you're not going to build your own camera sensors. You're going to go buy camera sensors,
Yeah.
right? And you're going to replace the Pi, but do you use a CM compute module instead of a full Raspberry Pi 4? Right? Like, there are crawl, walk around approaches, even in the middle of it's still custom. But which shoulders of giants do you stand on? Right? Because all of our clients on IoT is like, do you go use a particle, right, an all-in-one wrapped-up solution that gets your back end and your hardware, or do you go use a module that's been pre-approved, or do you go chip down, right? And these are the trade-offs you need to make, in volume, scale, risk, and all those stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And to evaluate that, I kind of put together, we're doing a redesign, some of the internals of the trace cam, basically to improve it. And one thing that's nice, the way I'm always doing various hardware revs, but of course externally it doesn't look like it. You can't see it. It looks like the same trace cam. But we're always like improving the internals for reliability and things like that. And now we're doing a big rev, and we looked at. I basically considered over the first year amortizing all of our NRE expense, and then like thinking of that as what the cost of the module would be. And you can get, I think, a little too cute with finance terms. You say, oh, well, that's NRE, but we're going to do this for years and years and et cetera. And I think if it doesn't like obviously pencil out in the first year, it's probably not worth going the really hardcore solution. I mean, it depends what you're doing, but like certainly at least consumer tech, if it's not obvious, don't wait on this 3 to 5 year, some really long amortization window with a discount rate.
Well, you still have to you still have to make money. That's my favorite thing. It's like, no, go pretend you had to get a loan for your NRE and what the interest rate is.
Yes.
And what is the efficient payback schedule for your product's lifetime? Some med devices are 10-year lifetime from a design perspective, and you can really afford to do big NRE and get out over your skis because you could afford the finance charge if you had to externally finance it.
Yeah.
And I love the way you're approaching that. Like, no, if you're going to self-finance, this has to be like a 1-year ROI because the owner's either not going to make money for a year and bet it all on the farm the next 2, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
I love a couple of the points you guys made a moment ago. I remember whenever we were running like All In back in the day, and I was just in my college dorm room, and we were on Twitter, my co-founder and I, and all the coaches, I'm sure you're pretty aware, like they would do a lot of recruiting on Twitter. And so we just jumped on there. We started shooting a lot of DMs because that's how we're selling, right? We don't know anything. We're in college. And we're just getting meetings. And one of my co-founders was a graphic designer. And he had just created a mock-up. Basically, as long as I was going through it, I could walk a coach through a demo of our product, even though obviously there was
no software.
It was just Adobe XD and just, we programmed it. And,
awesome.
we got our LOIs and because there was an investor who was like, hey, we're interested in your company. You guys are clearly taking this seriously. Is anyone going to pay for your product? And so it was like, oh, we had to go prove that. We got LOIs. We ended up raising capital, and then the rest is history kind of thing. I think with hardware, I think in general, B2C consumer SaaS is really, really difficult. Like arguably, like there's probably not 50 really, really successful, like truly B2C consumer like companies. I really think it's just a business model perspective on the hardware does make it sticky, which is unique because really you guys are dealing with like prosumers. It's not like directly consumer. These are prosumers. People are paying for their child to go through like travel soccer or what have you. I think it's just cool how I think the business model is really awesome, but two, just like your approach on the hardware development and your guys' team is what, like yourself and then how many others are on the hardware team like as a core?
On the hardware team, it's me and we have one firmware engineer, John, who's excellent. He's been with the company for 10 years now. But that's it right now. And then we have people on the hardware side doing like refurbishment, managing the fleet. We have a shipping team, here in California. But true hardware engineering, that's it. And then we've got our contract manufacturer overseas in Taiwan, a really close partner. Who helps us with a lot of things. But that's the other amazing thing, right? We have, well over 10,000 units in the field, shipping thousands of units, managed by, nominally me and John.
That's so incredible. I mean, that is such
awesome.
a rock star success story of a hard tech company, right? You knew when to stand on the shoulders of giants to get the hardware done. necessary evil to sell what I'm sure
Yeah.
your software team's probably bigger and is what your customers, what they appreciate over the hardware. But that back to DeAndre's point, that stickiness of buying a thing and getting a physical product, like retail therapy, there's very few softwares that are retail therapy. But oh man, when you get a new shiny toy and you gotta go set it up, even if you have to interact with the software to make it work, that is the core new Christmas present, right? This is the new toy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still fun. It's still great. And it's also nice just have a dedicated thing. So like one thing I love about our camera and how it's designed is yes, you can connect with your phone, whatever, send the game ID information, whatever, but you don't have to. If you if it's not connected to like power or internet, if you push the back button to turn it on, it starts recording.
That's so great.
That's it. You turn it on, it starts recording. It's a camera. That's what it should do. There's a single button. If you can't connect to it on the field, it's recording. Don't worry about it. And then you get it home. If it's plugged into power and internet, it goes in upload mode. It knows what to do, uploads the video. But yeah, there's no setup. Like, and I love how simple. It was really the product team drove a lot of that. How simple that concept was of like, why are you turning on the camera? If it's not plugged into basically power and connected internet, you're recording a game. Just record.
And I think that's such a great thing to say about like UX, right? User experience design.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we could put every bell and whistle on this and make sure that you need to dial in and set the focal length in the app and do all this stuff. And like, no, let's auto magical most of it. Sure, the settings might not be perfect as if a pro photographer set it up, but it's what everyone wants. And it will work every time. And that's the magic. People don't use things that work 80% of the time. There's this like magic moment that if there's too much friction, you just stop doing it. Right, in any experience, like DeAndre, you and I talk about this all the time in sales. Like, find the friction because there's a certain amount that will make someone not want to talk to one of our clients if we're helping them with go to market, or for us, like how do we engineer, conversations that don't feel like there's friction in them to have an open and honest conversation about like what everyone's doing and we're here to help. And it's like removing that friction both from what we do as a service, what you guys do in a hardware piece, and what makes magic on Christmas morning. You can open up the new toy and it works. There's not an hour of downloading the right things and setting it all up right.
Set up and waiting. Exactly. Yeah. It just works is the goal.
That's incredible. So my next question is, what's the most exciting thing in the forefront for you guys? Like, what is the new shiny object inside that you're able or willing to talk about today? Is this that internet AI has gotten better and faster, or where are you guys headed that's exciting?
Yeah, so I'd be remiss to not share. So Trace, obviously, we run these soccer cameras, but also there's Trace Vision now, which is taking all of the same AI components. Where we built an AI that's able to track a kids' youth soccer match, where every single person is usually the same gender, about the same age, everyone on the same team. They're all wearing the same clothing. And they're like running at each other and colliding. And we built the AI that can do a pretty good job of figuring out who's who, tracking through those occlusions, keeping track of all these things. And we realized like, oh, we can take the same core and apply it to AI like in retail and business cases.
Oh, very cool.
And so we actually have an active product now in I think a few well, I don't want to get over my grades, but a few hundred stores or something.
Yeah.
Actively recording and doing analytics and video highlights, but in that domain. So basically tracking customers through a store.
Yep. Hey,
and so, yeah.
Did they look at that advertisement? Is this end cap enticing people? Who spends the most time on what? And are you actually delivering ROI for your people that are paying for advertisements? I used to work at a Best Buy, and I worked in merchandise where I set up all of the end of aisle ads and all that. And it was always like, oh man, I know how much these people paid for this. I hope people are buying this product more than they would if it was just on the shelf two steps down.
Yes. And what and I'll get to the hardware for that, but one thing that's amazing we've been doing a lot of is our goal isn't to build a dashboard of just like 5 people came to the store. The goal is to do like what we do in Trace, to deliver a highlight reel, which is like, so you can put, you draw a sensor, it's called in the field, like a digital sensor where show me everyone who crosses this line. And then there's a playlist and app you can look at, and it just click, click, click. Just, you get to see every single person that crossed that line over, say, a day or whatever you want. And it's such a wonderful highlight reel. We demoed it to someone, and he was like, "Oh, wow, this is awesome," because he can see there's a difference between they walked by it and like glanced at it, or they were just walking to get somewhere else. It's really hard to put that into a dashboard, but humans love watching video. It's really engaging. Short form videos are great. And so like we want to deliver the highlights of that, the highlights that you care about. And so he said like, "Oh, I love it. Like this is clear. Okay, how we need to change this end cap." Because it was so easy for him to just watch what people do and how they interact with it.
That's
I'm even thinking like exactly from like a user experience perspective. Before he would have had to watch all the video. Maybe he would have like saw a few people walk, but it would not compute the same
Yeah,
way like back to back to back. Creating highlight reels
exactly.
for like retail is
Exactly.
fantastic. I love that you guys
Yeah.
are doing that. Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and and he wasn't going to clip that
And so
video.
for us, we're looking in the hardware space. What makes sense here to help us? It was again, I'd say we were reluctant, which is we were like, oh, everybody already has cameras. We don't need to do it. But now we're looking, well, a lot of those cameras aren't great, or they're really expensive, or it would be nice to have for customers who don't already have cameras or want to improve it to be able to ride them to that. Because a lot of times the customer comes to you and wants that. And so I think that's down the line, kind of the next place we want to start looking. So we want to build ideally something that it's almost the same brains that's in the soccer camera is now utilized in the retail space,
Yep, and
right? Probably
leverage.
a different housing, but yeah, a lot of the same, reuse a lot of the same
You
components.
don't think it'll be like nice and baby blue hanging from the ceiling?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've thought about it. If the product team will let me, I would make it the same like beautiful bright teal trace colors,
Yeah.
and I would put like nice addressable LED lighting on it. Like I would go all the way, but they probably won't let me.
It's like literally the opposite of every other
They'll probably
surveillance.
want it to be white.
Yeah,
Yes.
white and blend in with the rest of the ceiling, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
One of the last
Exactly.
questions I've got for you, Alex, is around the tariffs going on with a company your
Yes.
size and
hmm
even like the brief conversation we had before we kicked off the podcast. This is kind of really where it's impacting. So I'm curious, like, what's been your experience so far and what's happened?
Yeah. So obviously, like everyone in the hardware space, day by day, I'm checking things. The biggest way it impacted us, of course, was, we import from Taiwan currently, which is the key region, and we rushed and got our vendor to produce almost all of our inventory for the rest of the year before I
90-day
think July
expiration.
9th was the first 90-day pause that was going to end on July 9th. Uh, and we did it. It was awesome in that our partner was able to step up. We did some things to improve our capacity, bring in supplies. I think a lot of people were doing that. The trade-off though now on the hardware side that sucked about that is now it was locked. There were some improvements I wanted to make to the hardware for this season. Other investigations I wanted to do that I was like, oh, now we don't have time. Just ship what we've been shipping.
Yep.
And then it also meant making a huge investment in capex. Cash flow matters a lot in this business, uh, and so it's a total change to have to have pre-ordered so much stuff ahead of time.
Yep. Because
Change it for us.
even
Yeah,
beyond what a traditional, like I'll call like hard product vendor that sits on inventory and sells it, you don't even
yeah,
get to cash out the inventory you sell. It has some amount of time before it's ROI because you're hardware
yes,
as a service. So it's like an even longer play. And going back to that finance charge we talked about, like the NRE side,
yeah,
this same calculation comes in. And this is for anyone listening trying to start a company. It's all about cash flow. It's not about
hmm
engineering or software or marketing. If you can fix cash flow, everything else goes into place because you have money to fix the problems. But if cash flow ever
that's
goes to
right.
zero, bad days happen.
Yeah, 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 exactly. You got to know the balance sheet.
Yeah.
And you're in a fundamental way, like how much cash you have to put up front, how early you have to put it up front, limits your growth rate
Hmm.
because you'll run out of cash
Yep.
essentially. So think about that. But going forward with the tariffs, it does mean we're looking closely at our supply chain, and making backup plans. What would it take if we did need to rip and replace, and move these components? What components can actually be sourced here and maybe final assembly is here, but other key components are still external. Um, And I'd say at this point, it's really we're in the do a ton of work to look at all of these various options right now, because we're just out of the phase that was panic, just get everything built before the tariffs might hit,
Yeah, and you bought yourself
and now we're
just
taking a
enough,
breath.
just enough inventory
Yes,
runway to make a plan.
yes, exactly, to make the plan, and that's where we are now. I
Everybody,
think we're
Alex
freaks
Krause
out.
from Trace. This is the Hard Tech Podcast. I'm your host, DeAndre Harakas, my co-host, Grant Chapman. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you guys next week.